professionals have options. It's a competitive market, and money is not all we seek. We want to hire people who have pride in what they do and who they work for, and that's ultimately the story that we say, right?
I think it's interesting that you mentioned, culture and skills that can't typically be measured, because I think traditionally the way we've approached jobs in India is very, very skill oriented, something that you can put down on paper.
Yeah.
But, that's definitely a shifting situation. Even companies within India are very much looking to build a certain kind of culture.
Sure.
But I want to talk about another aspect of culture. You did mention, some of the roles outside of, say, finance or technology, where, like marketing, for instance, or HR, these are things that are also very dependent on a particular region's beliefs and behaviors and customs. So how do you sort of deal with those sort of barriers? Or even when you communicate with somebody, protocols are different across countries, across regions. So how do you account for all of that when you're going into a space like this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I think there's no easy answer to it. I mean, like anything, you are going to find yourself in a context that you need to, be ready for or prepare for. The good thing that happens in the GCCs that we work with, or in general the industry, is that there is a very strong focus on integration and onboarding, which means, rather than just throwing you into the deep end, you are getting to work with colleagues who are already in market or have tremendous exposure to a domain or an industry or a customer segment. And part of that onboarding is to get you, rapidly caught up to what's happening and, get you to deliver your best in a manner that the company needs you to, right? So I think this idea of integration is critical to the success of any global team. How rapidly can you embrace a one-team mindset? It doesn't matter where you sit, but everybody has access to the same knowledge, the same context, and can bring their own diversity in thoughts. I think that's critical. It's not an easy problem to solve. It's something that we cannot state enough when we talk to a lot of our customers in terms of what drives success. At the end of the day, it is about integration and ensuring that employees are sufficiently well onboarded. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you build tools and your processes to help people get there faster. That's what it's about.
Yeah. So you mentioned that GCCs work almost like a mini startup within a larger ecosystem. So I want to talk about that a little bit. There's this perception that when you're working with a big corporate and established company, there are so many processes, there's so much red tape, that it can feel like, you're almost just coasting on what you've done in the past, and it's difficult to really do something exciting. So for a young tech employee who wants to make his mark in the world, how would you describe the sort of work environment? What do you think he can look forward to in a GCC?
Yeah, I think I think GCCs do a bunch of things. One is that the reason a company is setting up a GCC is because they are in the process of some sort of transformation or change. They're either building out something new, or they're changing the way they do things, or there is a very ambitious goal that is being put on the table. And people that are being hired are being given visibility into where the company is headed and are given a chance to participate in that journey. And as a young professional, the ability to solve incredibly challenging problems at scale, do it in a manner where you're surrounded by tremendous colleagues, you've got a great culture, you've got job stability, and you have extremely fast growth of, learning and career opportunities, I think is really what you want. So I think in many ways, GCCs provide that and more. And, there is, I gave you a couple of examples earlier, but there are countless examples that we have where customers are coming to us saying, look, I am today a $20 billion company or a $50 billion company in my industry. I'm top of my game. I'm doing everything well, but the market is changing and I need to change quickly with the market. Otherwise I get left behind, which means I've got a time pressure. I've got key initiatives to do. I want to build the next big thing. I want innovation to come from within. How do I do it? And I want a GCC to achieve that. There's a very interesting article that came out, I think it was in The Economist or something, and it spoke about the fact that there is a perception that innovation is driven by startups. Of course, it's true. But when you look at the spend in R&D and innovation, it's actually being driven by the larger, more prevalent incumbent companies. And that is the story here, is that there is a need to transform and innovate, which is being driven from a company that is already very successful. So you're taking a playbook and now you're kind of building something with it. Those opportunities are what GCCs are about. And if you're a young professional looking to, sink your teeth in and learn about building a product that is going to have impact at scale, then this is essentially that opportunity for you.
Yeah, I think it's almost the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
You get the innovation, plus you get sort of the stability of an established company.
Yes.
I think that's great. Which brings me to the next perception that a lot of people might have. Typically, foreign companies, MNCs that have come into India have been very focused on back-end operations, right? It almost seems a little, not as cool as what everyone else is doing. How is this different? And, in what ways can people look forward to different sorts of opportunities other than back-end?
Yeah, so we're inheriting a legacy of how the IT industry in India has grown. And of course, it started out from very much that space of taking advantage of the cost arbitrage that exists in India, which means hire talent that is going to be a lot cheaper and more cost effective, and, outsource a lot of work that they could do for a lot cheaper than you can do it. So that has been the history of how the industry has grown and evolved. So a lot of that perception is based on where we used to be. Now, where it's changed to, for example, is we no longer talk about cost arbitrage. India is not the cheapest country in the world. There are other countries where you can get cheaper labor. It is about talent arbitrage. It's about access to talent that is today extremely skilled and ambitious and smart and building great products and already doing that with not just within GCCs, but a very mature startup ecosystem and with industry players that are doing some of the best work in the world. So in many ways, the opportunity today is to engage talent that is at that level of proficiency. And you can't come and give them work that is not going to suit their aspirations. So if you want to hire the best, you got to get your best work. And I think that's the realization that has happened over the last couple of decades, where a lot of companies have shifted from this mindset of let me farm out, sort of outsource cheap work to can I actually find top talent? And if so, how do I keep them engaged? We talk a lot about GCCs hiring for purpose. So when we bring a new customer or company in, we spend a lot of time in building out their employer brand in that local market. Who do they stand for? As an employer, why would you want to work with them? And bringing about a sense of purpose even for professionals. Today, professionals have options. It's a competitive market, and money is not all we see. It's about the kind of work I'm doing, who am I working with, what's the culture, what are my growth opportunities, do I align with the company's mission and vision? And so this idea of purpose is important, right? So when we're building out a GCC for a leading airline, everybody who comes in, interviews with that company in some way wants to be a pilot, or maybe has health and wellness enthusiasts that want to work for some of the leading athleisure brands that we work with. So there is a lot of that sense of alignment with what the company does. And that's important as well, because you want to hire people who have pride in what they do and who they work for. And that's ultimately the story that we say, right? You need to hire people that are going to stay with you for 3-4 years. And so if that's missing, then you're not going to be able to do it. So I think in many ways, if you are bringing low quality work, you will hire, low quality people. And that's not the purpose of a GCC.
I think that's a great direction to be heading in. So to end this, what are your top 3 tips for anyone looking to get hired by a GCC?
So top 3 tips would be, of course, the job application process is standard. We won't get into that. All those things are done. But in case you want to get hired, make sure you are comfortable talking about the work you've done, and then ensure that you can communicate your strengths and your weaknesses in relation to what the company needs clearly and effectively. I think the idea of putting it into a PDF only goes so far. Ultimately, it's about you as a person. Second, definitely do some research. these are companies coming in to hire people who, again, like I said, the idea of purpose remains consistent. So do some research, know what the company does, ask the right questions in terms of where they're headed and what they want to do and how it aligns with your vision. And 3 is really sort of understanding what you want to do as a professional and making sure that, the role aligns with what you want to do so that you can give yourself the right opportunity at the right time.
Thank you so much. That was extremely insightful. Thank you so much for giving us the time and such an in-depth look into GCCs. I'm sure we've all learned a little bit more. Thanks
Thanks
to
for
you.
having me. I love being here. Thank you.